Good morning. Welcome to You Can't Say That. I'm Greg.
And I'm Al. We're getting ready. I think we are getting ready to say it.
Um, I'm snowed in
Are you really?
a bit. I set up a camera so I could show people. So watch the YouTube feed, Al, so you can see this is what it looks like here. Oh yeah. Well, we got 5 inches last week, and then another 6 inches on Sunday on top of it, and it never got cold enough between the melt. So
So are you not a shoveler kind of guy?
nah, I live in the
Right.
woods. I mean, but I'm not snowed in. I have 4-wheel drives. I have a Jeep and Subaru, and the Subaru's good up past a little past a foot. The Jeep's good to 2 feet. Beyond that, do I really need to go anywhere? I mean,
Yep, I got you, man. I'm with you on that one.
Uh, all right. So, uh, we talked about masks.
Yes,
Um,
we did, didn't we?
and I've been thinking about this, and let me bring this up. So, um, I was trying, this whole thing of the forced masks on well people just really is really irritating, and um, and so I wanted to find some way to comply, but to make a statement, kind of an obnoxious statement, and so
Really, Greg Aldridge going to make an obnoxious statement.
yeah.
That's
So my first idea, you know how you go to the Middle East in Muslim countries, women have to wear those things they're not allowed to see. So that was my
yes.
first idea, was that I would get one of these and wear
The
it
burqa.
instead of the mask. Um,
Oh,
but
that
then
looked good on you, actually.
I thought, that's that may garner more attention than I really want, because it's not just a statement. Now you've got all this political correctness nonsense wrapped up in it, and I didn't want to start a fight. I just wanted to make a statement. So I came up with another idea. See what you think of this. All right, I'm going to hide my camera for effect, so I can because I've actually got this, and this is what I'm going to do. So
Oh,
whenever
no.
and this started because I went to the ABC store a week or so ago
Mm?
to get some Bailey's Irish Cream, and they gave me a hard time about the mask. And I said, well, the people with a medical condition are exempt. And he said that doesn't apply to us. So the people at the ABC store believe that the governor's order, granting exemptions to the mask order from a medical condition, do not apply to them. Now I don't know if that's true or not, but I found it irritating that that we have the king owns liquor stores, and the king's stores have special rules over and above everybody else's stores. It's just annoying. So I put a lot of thought into this, and this is what I came up with. All right, you ready?
Yeah.
All right, here we go.
Is that? Oh. Well, so you just walk in with your motorcycle helmet.
Exactly. I'll just keep this in the car. I'm going to put it in the car today, and then anytime I go somewhere where they're being a real jackass about the masks,
I think you're good. Plus, if
and I'm
any
used to
violence
wearing
erupts, you're
this.
safe.
Like, the
Yeah.
mask has a lot of issues, medical issues, psychological issues. But this, I wear the motorcycle helmet a lot. It's comfortable. You can breathe. It's got vents. This is awesome. So
Wow. I like it. Do you have an extra one? Do you have, do you have another one?
yeah, do you want one too?
Who are those two guys going around town with walking in the store? I'm sure though people probably are wearing motorcycle helmets in. Maybe they are. Maybe. I
I
mean,
haven't.
because a lot of places, all you need to do is just walk in,
Right.
right? Like a restaurant, till you sit down. So I'm thinking maybe the motorcycle helmet is it. I
Well,
think you're onto something.
and I had another altercation back last fall, probably about August, where I wasn't wearing the mask, you know, and I get in the store and I've already got in my hand what I want. And the guy's like, "Do you have a mask?" I'm like, "No." "Well, will you put one on?" "No." And he goes, "Well, maybe if you just pull your shirt up over your face, could you do that for me?" And I started to realize how not only how ridiculous all this is, but how unserious. It's not. It can't be about the medical or safety issues if government employees are saying it'll be okay if you just pull your shirt up above your I mean, really?
Right, just checking the box.
I realize that average people probably are just not, they don't see these things, but I mean, I'm offended at how stupid people think I am sometimes.
Yeah. And Greg, you know, this is a great point. Teaching moment again, that it's really dumbing us down because it's showing that we'll just do anything to take the weight, the pressure off of us. We'll just do anything. And I think that's a bad point to ever get to, is when you're just saying, just take it away. I don't want to deal with it. I'll comply. And like you said, all they want is something so they can say, yes, we did it. Let me bring up one thing, because this just came up recently. A friend has COVID. Okay. So, but nothing that would hurt them. They can still walk around. They can still do stuff. All that. There's no big deal.
Why? Did they test positive for COVID?
No, but they got a bunch of symptoms. So let's just assume they did.
Okay.
Okay. So in this case, we'll just assume it. So the deal is, why do you wear the mask? Well, we're being told you wear the mask so that you don't infect other people. Okay. So if this person has COVID, they have to now stay home for 14 days. Well, I thought the mask was that to protect other people. So why can't you just go to work? I mean, so almost like in just a real basic thing, it doesn't seem to make sense. The mask is supposed to be to protect other people from you if you have COVID. So you get it. Okay, so this is what the protection is all about. Oh, no. Now you have to stay home. Then why were you wearing the mask? I thought the mask was for protection. If you had it, you didn't want to give it to someone else. So obviously that's not the reason for wearing a mask, right? Because once you get it, then you have to stay home. Well, then the rest of us are just walking around. It's silly.
Right. To clarify,
Absolutely.
Everybody down the chain of enforcing that believes it's about the safety and and about the transmission issue. But at the root of it, whoever is at the root of this little scam they have been running on us for a year now.
Yeah.
They are the ones that know it's not about that. But all they have to do is tell the official offices and the official departments and all the official people and the AMA and doctors. All they have to do is send down that order of why it is, and everybody else, they're enforcing it because they believe it's actually about safety, about protecting people from the virus. And so when you say these things that we're saying, those people get offended because they're enforcing it because they believe it's for safety. They're not part of the scam, so they get angry, and that's why we have so much of a fight about it. They're not in on it. All they're doing is their job, and that's how conspiracies work. Only a tiny couple people know what's going on, and they set in motion something that allows everybody to just do their job normally to pull it off. So, when you get into an argument with an ABC worker or some medical care professional in the lobby of the hospital or whoever it is, they're not part of it. They're enforcing something for a reason that they believe is the reason when it's not actually the reason.
Okay, so let's say you do have that group, and I think that's probably the majority. But then you also probably have a smaller group that, they're the small business owner guy that's just saying, I don't want to get shut down. I can't not operate. I mean, this is how I make my money. I'll go bankrupt. So they, I think, probably are more onto the truth, but they got to comply.
Well, their
livelihood's at stake.
There's some business owners exactly like what you're saying. I know them. They're doing it because they don't have a choice. If they want to run a business, they got to do it. But there's other businesses, and I've been there. Those owners are part of that group of people that have bought into this. They're scared to death. They think every little edict that's sent down from the Surgeon General of the United States and the CDC, they believe that this is all 100% legitimate. And
gotcha.
there's not there's not a consensus on this. Like many other things that we've kind of moved into into politics now, there's not a consensus. That's why we're so divided, is because you've got generally about half the people on whatever it is buying into something, and another half of the people saying, wait a second, they're skeptical and they want they want proof, evidence, they want an investigation, they want to find out the truth. And so they're constantly battling. It doesn't matter whether it's masks or whether it's who stormed the Capitol on January 6th, or everything now is a fight. Everything is something that people are completely polarized by. And then you've got a very tiny set of people like us who are kind of watching all this go on, and we don't believe the scam, right? We're not part of either side of this fight. We're watching them divide these people and set them against each other at war, basically. And you can't tell them. We're powerless to get them to open up their eyes and figure out what's being done to them. It's very frustrating.
The funny thing is, Greg, the reason I'm not believing it is just from the clear evidence that's just shown. I mean, it's so obvious when you just look at the evidence and how things are going about, just like the evidence I just gave you there about wearing the mask so you don't transmit the disease when you get it. But then when you get it, you got to stay home. Well, I thought that's what the mask was for. So they're just things that are like illogical, and you're thinking, no. And then now California, I guess because the recall thing, we talked about this last time, now they're starting to lift everything. I mean, it's all so political. But
something interesting, and if you go to the CDC website and you read the official bulletin on social distancing and mask wearing, you're supposed to either wear a mask or stay 6 feet away from everybody. And nobody seems to know that. And no public policy in any state in the union that I can find is following the guideline of you either stay 6 feet away or you wear a mask. Everybody is doing wear the mask and stay 6 feet away. I mean, the governor's order, our own governor's order, who's supposed to be a doctor, is pretending that the CDC's recommendation on this doesn't even exist. They tell us, no, you got to do both. Well, that's not what the feds say. Why is the federal government telling us it's either or? And they it's funny to watch somebody discover that. The other day that happened. Like I've been telling somebody about this for a long time. And the other day they came to me and asked a question. And I said, just look it up on the CDC website. And they came back and go, did you know that we're not supposed to wear a mask and stay 6 feet apart? Yeah, I did.
Amen. That's a good one.
Welcome to the club.
Well, the 6 foot apart, I mean, if you want to stay a distance, usually when you have a cold or a virus or something, it's, genuinely a good idea not to hover over somebody. So that just makes logical sense.
So the final word on masks.
Yeah.
And this is how they do it in Asia. This is how they do it in Japan and how they do it in Korea. And this is how they do it. And it makes perfect sense. If you're sick, you don't go out. Okay? You self-quarantine because you don't get other people sick. If you have to go out, you wear a mask. It's as simple as that. It's sensible. It's reasonable. It makes medical sense. But the reason why we can't do that, Al, is because that does not empower people in politics. This whole thing is about empowering a group of people in control of the political powers in the United States of America. That's what this is.
It's going to be interesting to see afterwards a little study on what this whole thing of a mask does to an individual. Because when I look at Asian countries, like you just brought up, Korea, North Korea, China, Japan, it kind of seems like you have somewhat of a docile group of people that are more subservient.
They are used to being bossed around entirely more than we are. And to clarify China, in China, there's many places where everybody wears a mask, but it's not about the transmission of viruses. It's because the air quality is so poor. They wear it so they don't get the stuff in their lungs. So if you see a picture of everybody wearing masks in China, you don't come back to me and go, oh, Greg, you said they only wear it if they're sick. No, in China, they wear them also because the air quality sucks.
Right. So, before this whole thing happened with COVID, normally when you saw somebody outside on the street that wore a mask, it usually was an Asian person. I mean,
Yeah.
with my memory, before this whole COVID thing, usually if I was going to see somebody wearing a mask, it seemed like it was somebody from either China or Japan or something like that. So,
Or the
that's
dentist.
becoming more ingrained in their culture.
Or the dentist.
Or the dentist, yes.
All right.
Now, they should be wearing masks. I get you.
We are, let's see, we're 15 minutes in. Let me.
And we're just talking about masks.
I
again.
know. I want
Topic
to.
is driving me nuts.
We have three people. If you've tuned in after the fact, you should go back when this is over and rewatch the very beginning so you can see my mask solution. I think you'll enjoy my mask solution. I won't tell you what it is. I want it to be a surprise. Just go back and watch that later.
Yeah, I actually really like that, Greg. I mean, could you imagine, just one last thing on that thing? Could you imagine wearing that in your car? Now that would be cool. Drive around with a helmet on in your car.
I'm going to go through a couple of quick things. We don't have to talk about them in depth because we're going to talk. These are things we're going to end up talking about for the next few months, I'm sure. The first one is House Resolution 350. And let me put this up here. To authorize dedicated domestic terrorism offices within the Department of Homeland Security, the Department of Justice, and the Federal Bureau of Investigation to analyze and monitor domestic terrorist activity and require the federal government to take steps to prevent domestic terrorism. So, everybody needs to be wary of this. What this is setting up an office that is designed to go after freedom fighters in our own country. Any group that is overly critical, that causes any trouble, it doesn't matter that they're not trying to overthrow the government. That's the facade that is laid across this. They get a couple of crazies. They act like anybody who has a problem with the government now is a terrorist, so that they can use deadly force and take them down. Governments protect themselves first. This is a historical fact. Governments will protect themselves, and anything that would cause problems or make changes or revolutionize a government is the enemy. It doesn't matter if your intentions are good, if you're a moral person, if all you're doing is trying to reorganize your civilization along the lines of freedom and for people to be free. That's not the point. But they're going to make anybody who talks like patriots, anybody who talks like Tea Party people talk, anybody who talks about the Declaration of Independence, who talks about, the Tree of Liberty being watered by the blood of patriots, anything George Washington or Thomas Jefferson say, if these quotes are part of your political activism going forward, you are going to be dragged into this domestic terrorism, and they're coming after you. You will not be allowed to dissent. And that's what this bill is really putting in place. It's not to protect our country from domestic terrorists. It's to protect the status quo of our government against people who would try to change it and put things back right the way they should be, with liberty at the foundation of it.
Right. So let's make it clear. It's not for those that want to change. We don't want to change it to something different. We just want to have it back to what it should be.
Right. I want it it says on the paper.
Yeah.
I just want the contract to be followed.
With an article I was talking about and wanted to talk about today, is this whole thing of our Christian worldview. So there's several congressmen right now that have pushed forth, are big ones out of Maryland. Let me just Rep. Jamie Raskin out of Maryland, and then you've got two of these guys out of California, Huffman and McNerney, trying to get the nation back to a secular worldview. Now, you and I may disagree a little bit on this, but I think it's a good conversation, because I think it really is the basis, I think, of everything that's happening. And I think the foundation of our nation was definitely if it wasn't everybody, you can have this argument about whether it was all religious or whatever, but we definitely have a biblical underpinning in America. I mean, you go to any structure in America that was built a couple hundred years ago, and there's scripture on it. You go to the monument, you go to the Jefferson Mall, you go to the Capitol, they all do. So we either got to say that these people were just crazy about putting verses everywhere, or there was at that time a deep thought that the Bible was kind of the basis for a structure of government.
Well, also, the Masons tend to be Catholic or Protestant. So they're
Gotcha.
they're Christians. So
Yes.
a lot of times, and I'm not discounting what you were saying about the foundation, but a lot of times the Masons, when Masons build something, they kind of put their own stuff into it. And an example of that is if you go to New York to Post Office number 1, which I think is on 8th Avenue, like the main post office right in Manhattan, and it has that thing across the top that says, "Nor rain, nor sleet, nor darker night shall keep the postman from his appointed rounds." That was
Right.
that's not the motto of the post office. People think it is because they stuck it up there and it got talked about, but that is not the official motto of the post office. It was never made so. It was never voted that way. That was something that the people who built the building, they put that up there.
Okay.
And so it's sometimes you have to, the builder of a building gets a little freedom to stick their own stuff, and that may be the cause of some of the religious verses that we see on buildings. Maybe.
All right. So I could say though that if that still was part of the prevalent thought, because obviously there's no uprising about it.
Oh,
And then
sure.
if you go to the speeches or any of the inaugurations or stuff of our early presidents and stuff, it's filled with scripture. I mean, they could either be faking us all out, or there was this tendency to lean upon a God of the universe. So all I'm saying on this is that we can have a little debate about the extent of it, but I would definitely say that we came from that kind of a heritage because it's intertwined in everything that is American.
Well,
Now,
sure.
I think we all in America need to come to some um, moment where we've got to say, wait a minute, if we do believe in a God, we either got to commit to it and maybe discuss the implications of that, or we need to go away from it. And there are a group of congressmen that are trying to just make America secular, but they're really not trying to make it secular because we're all going to worship something. Okay. And I see what they're trying to do is have government be the one you worship. So I just caution everybody that you may think you can actually be in a secular, neutral country. That is not going to happen. It never happens. You go to China, you go to Russia, there's no neutral. You're worshiping the government. You're working for the government. You're doing everything. The government is your God.
Well,
So I would be very cautious of what we're trying to do here.
And that's why communism can't allow for, and this is another one of these historical facts. If you go to every communist revolution destroying religion, all religion but the state, is always a component of it. It has to be, because the state cannot allow anything to be more powerful in the minds of its subjects, its citizens, of its slaves, than the government. So whether it's the Soviet Union or China, take your pick of communist-run countries. Religion has to go. You can't because communism. I mean, a communist form of government implies the supremacy of the government, because everything and everybody has to be subservient to it. You can't have
Correct.
God there, because then that gives people something else to believe in and becomes a foundation for revolt and rebellion, or if nothing else, for disobedience. And
Correct.
communist regimes cannot have disobedience. So God must be killed in the minds of the slaves of the citizens, whatever you want to call them.
I would agree. So let me offer something else too. So it's interesting how Christians, because you were just talking about patriots, and I think that word patriot is now becoming this like charged up word, and before it used to be a great word. You watch, I guess the New England Patriots will pretty soon, I would think, change their name, or maybe have to change their name due to pressure. I look at that in the next year or so.
Well, and if you read on that point, if you read Solowinski, Rules for Radicals, if you read any of the stuff from historically from the great communist and socialist leaders, who are hell bent on revolutions, one of the things they tell you is you have to command the language. If you want to win an enemy, the first thing you have to do is you have to steal their language from them, and make it your own. Any words like patriot, well, that's a word that unifies people, but it unifies people against an oppressive government. So that word has to be changed so it can no longer unify. Anything that brings people of like mind together in opposition to despotic rule has to be destroyed. And that's what you're seeing. That's why the word patriot, if you're a patriot now, you're a domestic terrorist. That's what's going on. It's not an accident. It's
Right.
actually a very methodical plan that's been written down by multiple socialist, communist, revolutionary thinkers over and over again. This is just textbook
Right.
revolution
and
stuff.
it does work. So you change the connotation of the word, so you get people hating that word. And then after they hate it so much, then obviously you have to change it, and everybody is good with it. I mean, even the Redskins was that whole issue. Like, really? I mean,
Well-
but that had a little different implication, not really, more of a racist versus a charged up, inciting revolution kind of word. That
Yeah.
you've got them on both sides. They got it going on two different areas.
Right. And you don't just steal the words. You have to steal the symbols. You have to steal the heroes, right? That's why history classes in government schools for the last 20 years have been talking about our founding fathers as racists and slave owners and rapists and rich, greedy, whatever. I mean, you have to steal the heroes. You steal the heroes. You also have to steal the imagery. That's why things like the Confederate battle flag, why all of a sudden, that's a trigger for somebody who wasn't even born when that flag was made.
Right.
It's the symbols, the language, and the heroes have to be stolen, changed, and destroyed. And that's what you're seeing. That's what you're seeing go on. I mean, when you talk to millennials about the founding fathers, they don't have this awe of the risk those people took to create a free country and separate themselves from British rule. There's no, and that's why when we talk to them about, and give quotes from Thomas Jefferson or James Madison, it has no effect on them because those people are not heroes to them. Those people are evil white men who enslaved women, enslaved blacks, stole money, started an unjustified war. Government schools have completely flipped around. And why did they do that? Because the communists said back in the 30s, after they failed a real revolution here, just like the Bolshevik Revolution in Russia, when that failed here, they changed their tactic, and their tactic became to assimilate into government, take over education, take over healthcare, take over government, and we will transform the country from the inside slowly. So they did. They became our teachers. They became the people who set the academic standards. They created a federal office for education so that you could have centralized control of what was going to be taught to kids, and that way you don't have to have as many people running the show. Just a few people can set the propaganda for government schools all across the country. Our kids believe this nonsense because we let communists take over our schools 50 years ago, and that's what they have been teaching them.
Yep. And the order that you had it was exactly right. I think education is first, and then healthcare becomes next, because once you can control that, and then really government, I think, is just a gotcha at the end. I mean, once you got the education and you got the healthcare, it's a pretty easy thing to just flow into government, and we're kind of seeing it. Let me just say one other thing about this secular, it's actually called the Secular Democrats of America. And there are a bunch of Democrats that are in it, but they talk about Christians as being an extraordinarily well-funded and well-organized phenomenon.
Well, they used to be. They used to be well-funded and
Well,
well-organized.
I'll tell you though, Greg, here's an interesting thing. I think the Christians are still very well-funded. I've talked to a lot of churches around even this pandemic time, and churches were bringing in a lot of money during this pandemic. Churches have a lot of wealth in them. Now, I think they're being misguided sometimes in the spending of the money. It's all for buildings and buildings and buildings instead of getting out and educating the masses.
But I think I think that's an anomaly in the trend. The trend in churches is a downward trend where there's fewer people coming to church, fewer money being donated. Last year's an anomaly because we had this whole COVID thing. And so
Right.
people looking for a way to help who want to do something, for a lot of people, the first thing they think of still is going to be, well, my church, right? So I
Right.
think that's why you saw the blip last year of funding within the church world. But the trend historically up until last year is
Yeah, although I will tell you that I think with that happened last year, a lot of people were drawn to church because they thought, what's going on? They needed something, and I think it helped that the church was there, and a lot of people, I guess, got drawn into church to help.
I think it would be more helpful to get drawn into church if the churches hadn't been destroyed like every other thing. I mean, when you have preachers teaching, teaching social justice in church, when the whole thing becomes about do whatever you want, when they pervert Jesus's message into something that they can use as a weapon to destroy the church, and that's what you're seeing. There are and when you talk to preachers about that, they're like, "Look, I can't say that stuff because then people will stop coming." We need to grow the church. Well, you don't grow the church by lying about Jesus.
Right, and you can't dilute the message. I think a lot of churches have gotten into the whole, tax deductible thing. I'd say forget the tax deductible. Who cares whether you're tax deductible? Just say the truth. If your tax deductible status gets taken away, who cares? People that give to church, we're giving to church because that's what we should be doing. Forget about the tax deduction thing. But I think people do, and I think we need to just continue to preach the truth. But I've heard a lot of scholars on this talk about that the liberals give a lot more money to government things, to push certain agendas. And I think that's true because that is their God. That's the only thing they got. Like as a Christian, I don't rely on what government is doing. I would much rather, I'd give my money to church more than give it to a political candidate because to me, that's not my salvation is government. But liberals, people that have no belief in God and just think this is what it is on earth, this is it, this is as good as it gets, they are trying so eagerly to make this the best they can. So I think that's why you get a lot more enthusiasm on the left in terms of pushing causes. I mean, as a conservative, I don't want to push any agenda. I just want to live a peaceful life with freedom. I don't have an agenda I want to push, but we better be careful. I think it's really the Kamala Harris and Biden regime here, it is ripe for really putting the squash on the Christian thought. And we better be careful, just like other ones, as you're talking about too. But I think the Christian movement better be careful. Looks like a time of a little bit of persecution.
And there was, whether it was a coordinated effort or not, there were certainly multiple fronts on the war against Christianity. So you have the Hollywood front, where no Christian in a Hollywood movie or on a television show is allowed to be a true Christian. They have to be fake Christians. They have to be mean Christians. They have to be lying, cheating, stealing, raping, murderous Christians. You don't see Christians like you, Al. You don't see those kinds of people in movies. They're not depicted. You don't see Christians who are actually taking good care of their families, whose families are actually doing things for others in the communities. That's not the portrayal of Christianity. So it's no mystery that as kids grow up and they watch this on television, that they're being propagandized as to what Christians are by the culture, by our pop culture.
Yeah.
Then you've got government.
We almost have to create, because it's no surprise that those that oppose Christianity are going to put everything into defeating Christianity. So I think those on the side of Christianity need to acknowledge that's who they are. And then I thought there's some good Christian movies that have come out. Most of them are kind of hokey, but Christianity, I think, especially in Georgia, there is a good movie production company like Facing the Giants. There's some movies that came out that were actually box office hits that have done well, and they do depict a different kind
True.
of
And that's
value system.
And that's very tiny,
very small.
And most of what gets produced, like we would, that would portray Christians, I think, more fairly, is not made by the official Hollywood machine. It's made by outsiders. It's made by independents, because that's the only way
Correct.
you can get something like that done.
Hey, that's a step, right? I mean, we let this thing go so long. I think you got to take the initial step, and it's been somewhat successful. I mean, hey, you capture this thing back a little bit at a time. I mean, we didn't lose it overnight. We did lose it. Education, though, is the key to me.
Well, and
our schools.
To be fair, Christians made it easy for them to do this, because Christians have not been behaving well anyway. I mean,
you got plenty of examples.
If Christians had been better examples in the real world, it wouldn't have been so easy to propagandize people about them in the culture world.
Yeah, but we do have to be careful. Like, human beings are failed creatures.
Oh, sure.
And the tough thing is, because I get a lot of people succumbing to that too, is, well, did you see what he did? Yeah, I got it. But my model is Jesus. It's not any individual, because they're always going to not fulfill what they should. Even myself. I mean, you're just never going to live up to the standard that you want to set. So that's always a tough one, because that battle you'll always lose. And the left, although you're right, the left loves just highlighting one of them, and it demoralizes the rest of us. Oh, yeah. But we should be victorious in it. We shouldn't be succumbing to that. But anyway, just on the lookout for this stuff. I think it's happening at a little quicker pace.
And a final thought on that is the Catholic Church helped considerably in destroying the image of Christians by letting priests molest children and then cover it up.
Yeah.
If the Catholic Church had not mishandled, it was self-protection. The reason why important people in the church could not allow, lower level priests to get busted is because they themselves are guilty.
Oh yeah, it goes
bishops,
right up
cardinals, it goes all the way to the top, and they can't make the underlings pay, because the underlings know that they're guilty too, and then they're going to get outed. So to protect themselves, they had to protect the priests, and what they ended up doing, obviously, was hurting multitudes of children for no other reason than selfish self-protection, so they did not get caught for their horrible behavior.
I agree. And that's where I think that community acts just like Hollywood. Hollywood does the same thing, and they protect everybody. And you got sexual scandals all over the place, and and then once it breaks loose, a couple people get crushed under it, but then it quiets up again, and you're back to where you started from. But I got you. Hey, yeah.
I was just going to.
One thing is, one little headline was about Kushner getting the nomination for the Peace Prize. Now, it was Trump. It was shown as Trump, nominated for Peace Prize, but I think it's actually Jared Kushner who is, and Avi Berkowitz, I guess the deputy. Those two, I guess, worked on the peace arrangements in the Middle East, and it seemed like a lot of great things were done right towards the end of his administration. At least they were signed. They didn't get a lot of exposure.
Well, no, because the left is intellectually dishonest with themselves and everybody else. Because if the left had really cared about something more than its own power, then they should have been extremely excited that we just had a president who didn't start a new war.
Oh, absolutely.
Who ended wars, drew down troops. I mean, we went through 4 years. We went through the first presidency since what, the 60s? No, God, we may have gone through the first presidency in our alive history where the president didn't start a war.
Yeah.
He's the first guy. I mean, I have to go back and check the history on that, but just off the top of my head, I think he's the only one who didn't start a war. And why are they not shouting his name in the streets and thanking him for being the president of peace? Because their own power is more important than anything they claim they care about.
and try to erase every bit of history of anything good he did. But it'll be interesting. But the other person that's up for this Peace Award, I guess, is that Greta Thunberg about this climate change. I tell you.
And she has her own movie on Netflix or her own television show. Have you seen that?
I haven't.
Oh yeah, she's like the world eco fighter. So they got this whole television series on Netflix now about her and how awesome she is.
Isn't amazing?
I want to puke. I want to puke. I won't do it on camera because it's gross. But
that's the other God that people, people like I mentioned in the very beginning. People don't want to bring God into the debates. Well, God is being brought into the debates, and a false God. Climate change is something, and I think it's going to go big time, I think, in this administration, just because all the forces are there, at least until the next election. But making climate a god, it is amazing to me how we've all bought into that, or maybe not everybody, but how much force that has around the world. It's such a diversion. That's what it is. It's a diversion to what's really going on, just blaming everything on climate change and evil people that. And I was going to mention something. Chipotle. If you
wait a second, I was going to talk. I want to talk about this on Thursday. I'm just going to mention it real quick.
Okay.
Climate change is not a diversion. I mean, it can be. It's diverting people's attention. I'll give you that. But climate change is actually a self-empowerment of a movement. And I'm going to talk about that with respect to the Keystone Pipeline, the Mountain Valley Pipeline, for all these pipelines on Thursday on our show. I'm going to explain to people what's really going on with shutting down pipelines, global warming and alternative fuels and all that nonsense. I'm going to set the record straight and clear it up for everybody so they understand what's going on Thursday.
Okay. Well, let me mention one thing, because I'm looking at my little app that I have for Chipotle. And I asked Greg if he likes Chipotle. He's not a great fan of it. But what I do is I go to Chipotle, and then we get the kiddie meal for $4.95. So you get a little, you get a little bag of chips, you get a drink, and you get
a burrito,
2 little tacos or something. It's enough for a meal. That's all I'm good for. But on their app right now, what they have is they show you by the order that you made how much less carbon now is in the atmosphere based on the item you ordered. Because I guess since you ordered it and the way they bring it to market, they use 91.5 grams less of carbon now is in the air because of the order that you put on. So there's your little app, and it shows you all these little things, and you might not be able to see it there, but it gives you 4 items: less carbon in the atmosphere, supported organic land. So by ordering what you ordered, you now are supporting organic growing. I don't have a problem with that. I love organic foods. In fact, if you go to the grocery store and you actually get the organic vegetables, they do taste better. I mean, it's not just a mind thing. You pay more for it, but you taste the difference between organic strawberries and regular ones.
Oh, yeah, often, absolutely.
Yeah, gallons of water saved. So they show you that by the order that you just put for that little kiddie meal, you saved the world so many gallons of water. And finally, improved soil health. So because you ordered Chipotle kiddie meal, you now a certain amount of square feet of soil you've preserved. So they're really into this, and it's actually on the app. And every time you order, it shows you. Wow, that really gets into your brain about how good you are to the world by ordering Chipotle
well,
food.
Are you good to the world? Because that first one, I mean, think about this. That first one, how much carbon dioxide you put into the air. Yeah. Somebody needs to start a campaign to save the trees. Because
we need more carbon
because
in the air.
What you're saying is we're giving them less food. We are going to start starving the vegetation of the planet under this idea that somehow carbon dioxide is what drives the temperature change on the planet, which isn't true. The sun is what drives the temperature change on the planet.
There you go.
It's as simple as that.
Here's a shirt for you. Save the trees. Drive an SUV.
Now, see, if we were following rules for radicals, then we would do that. That would be our attack. We would go after them as hating plants. And
why do you hate plants? Yeah,
exactly. You create an entire movement against their carbon nonsense, and you could become the true tree huggers. Trees got to eat too. So do flowers, and so do bushes, and so does the grass, and every other thing. Why are these environmentalists starving the vegetation?
Greg, I think we're in. Trees have to eat too. I kind of like that one better. That's a little bit more sympathetic. Please don't starve the trees. They have to eat too. Drive a big SUV. Or something about the carbon. Put more carbon into the atmosphere. I think that's sure. I'll buy one. So I'll order and I'll wear one.
All right.
That would be good. We have to get a good graphic artist to help us with that one.
All
Good
right,
stuff.
we're going long. We got to wrap up real quick.
Yep.
I just want to remind people of something here. I got a couple of very fast things. Today is the anniversary of discovering that our governor is a racist. So don't forget that this blackface picture from Governor Northam's annual in college, today is the day that he denied he was in the picture. He lied to the entire state of Virginia, said he wasn't in the picture. But he said, I don't believe I was in the picture. Now, later on, it all came out that he was, obviously. But today's the anniversary of Governor Northam's lie about his racist past in college.
Wait, so he was actually blackface, but he was standing next to a Ku Klux Klan guy, right?
Yeah.
I mean, because not only the blackface thing, but just standing next to a guy with a white hood, that seems kind of way over the top.
You'd think, right?
Huh?
I said you would think.
You would think.
But
don't forget, too, about Northam, because I know we let this pass because of the blackface stuff, but he's also the one that said you could deliver a baby and then kill it. And that is on the radio. I listened to that radio interview.
Yeah, you deliver it, and then you decide whether or not you want to kill it.
Can you? But that's huge. You're going to abort a baby, but it lives. So you put it on the table, let it get its air, and then you decide, should we really kill it?
Al,
Whoa.
We both know that the abortion issue for the political class is not about killing babies or saving babies. It's about power. It's about solidifying political power, and that's why the left. That's why abortion is a sacrament to Democrats and social progressives and communists and socialists. It's because that's a dividing issue that they can command control of and use it as a weapon against their political enemies. They don't care two squats about whether women can get safe abortions or not. All they care about is the political power that can be derived from the issue of abortion.
Yeah, I would agree. Most issues are like that. I mean, it is the political power you can get. Even the homosexual movement, the transgender movement, they don't really care about this person or that person or whatever. There is a constituency there, and votes can be derived and money can be derived.
All right,
if you segment everything out.
And last, I want to show this. I don't know if you've seen this, Al, but it's a video of Biden signing blank executive orders. Have you seen this? I'm putting it up on.
Are those little folders he opens up and signs?
And there's nothing written on the paper. He's signing. Now, this has been spread around the internet as some kind of conspiracy, like that they're keeping things from him and he's not mentally able to be president, and so he's signing these blank pieces of paper and they're going to fill in the executive orders later. I've done some research on this because I really wanted to know what in the world is going on here.
Gotcha.
And what I thought I was going to find was that there was some procedure, that's ceremonial maybe, or that there's a reference number or something. And I can't. But what I did find while I was searching for this is a TMZ article from quite a while ago accusing Trump of the same thing. This was from back in October. Working hard or hardly working. Blank paper photo raises doubt. And they show a picture of Trump, and this was tweeted by Melania talking about how hard her husband was working, and he looks like he's signing blank paper too. So what in the world is this all about? We're going to have to find out.
Yeah, I don't know if that really bothers me. I mean, the whole executive order thing bothers me.
Well, sure.
But the ceremony, these these things you're signing are probably huge documents, aren't they? I mean, executive orders doing this or that. There's probably a whole lot of stuff behind it. So whether it's a ceremony of somebody signing something, I mean, I don't know if that bothers me or not.
If there's something, we don't know. That's the thing. I can't find anything that says it's just ceremonial. Everything I'm finding acts as if this is the real signing of the actual order, which is what makes this all so strange. And they're going after Biden for this. Obviously, the Trump people are going after Biden for this. But I found Trump doing it too. So it's not a left versus right. It looks to me like some kind of scam that the government is running on us, no matter who's running the government.
Right, because it does seem. So the only thing I could see here is obviously the bureaucrats are running everything. Biden is signing it because they're telling him to sign it. And then they kind of fill in the stuff after the fact, and it gets put in.
All right.
Although, didn't you think that's kind of how the government was being run anyway?
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
So, all right, we're out of time. We will be back on Thursday, and Al will have some topics, and I'm going to release the bombshell info about the environmentalist movement and what it's really all about, and why Biden would shut down the Keystone Pipeline but not shut down the Mountain Valley Pipeline, that kind of stuff. So you got to tune in at 10 on Thursday. You will not have heard this anywhere. I'm gonna share some insider information on this.
Oh, very good.
And I guess as we go, I'm gonna leave people with another view of the snow outside.
Yes, let's see that
as we
beautiful
take
snow.
off. Thanks everybody for watching. Al, have a great day.
Yep. You too, my friend. Thank you.
We'll see you later.
Bye-bye.